do you want to go back to how Exude started?
For sure.
And,
well, I mean,
yeah.
in terms, I'll kick it to my, what I've my professional development,
Yes, please.
or where I've been. So
'Cause,
I started my first business when I was like 15 and a half, 16 years old, running a Gary's mod server.
So 3 years ago now?
That funny, nice. I'm 21 now, so that would be around 6 years ago.
Okay, good.
And so yeah, like I have vivid memories of sitting in class and everyone's listening to the teacher and I'm sort of not paying any attention at all, just doing my things on the forums and stuff like that. So yeah, that was fun. Like
So how did this business come about? I'm very interested in the entrepreneurial spirit
sure.
of which you always display.
For sure.
And this was on display in a classroom.
Yeah.
So were you playing this particular game and then realised that you needed some support and that you could be the person providing the support to others, or how did that happen?
So this game Gary's Mod, the server that I ran was a dark RP server, which is essentially like role play. So it's like there's different roles in the game. So like you could be a police officer, you could be a thief, you could be a drug dealer, you could be a drug manufacturer, you could be
the game of life.
Yeah, you could be anything, and
Yes.
and there was a monetary system where you'd make money, you could buy houses, you could buy cars, you could like all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
So it's like a GTA, but like on software that is so outdated, but it's outdated to the point where it's sort of got charm. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes.
So I'd spend some money, on from doing chores and stuff on other people's servers, sort of buying, unlocking levels and unlocking sort of tiers and
Yep.
Perks and stuff like that. And I was sort of like, why am I putting my money towards these servers when I could make a 10 times better server and and be reaping the rewards of having these tier systems that people are buying and all that sort of stuff. So I basically I had the idea, and the next day I started made it sort of reality.
So you go to the computer shop and buy a set. How do you even do this?
I'd been playing video games since I was 12 years old. Started with Minecraft, sort of went through all the different games, Counter-Strike, all that sort of. I met a lot of people playing video games.
Yep.
Some of those people.
That's a very social activity.
Absolutely. A lot of those people are a lot smarter than me.
Yep.
So I would build those relationships with those people.
Yep.
And eventually it was like, okay, so, I want to start this Gary's Mod server. I have no idea, because, you need to know how to code. You need to know how to, put all these, what was the language called? It was Lua. I tried to learn how to code Lua, and I'm just like, is this really worth my time? You know what I mean? So I'm like,
someone else to do that. Yeah, outsource.
Exactly right. So one of my friends, Brandon, at the time, I had a few meetings with him. I'm like, so this is my concept, this is my idea, this is what, and he's like, yeah, no, I'm interested, pay me this much of, the first,
whatever you can get,
and that was sort of the go. And it was just a work in progress from there. And I think what I found was, being really connected to the community that was playing, like building that relationship. At one point I had 20 staff members on this server. So I'd have, trial admins, I'd have admins, I'd have moderators, I'd have, or like a range. I'd have, a team leader that would look after the admins and all this sort of stuff. So it was a big operation. There was about 100 people playing on the server every single day, like per time slot, and you'd work out where the key, the key traction, so between the hours of 6 and 9, that's when a lot of people are on after school and all that sort of stuff. So it's like,
so are people playing this from all over the world, or is this
Australia?
Australia, really?
So I mean, with ping, with playing these games, you've got latency issues. So if you're playing in America, then it's going to be a bit laggy and there's going to be a bit of delay. Okay. So there was about 5 servers in the dark RP realm that really held the wealth of like attention when it comes to the people that were playing.
Yeah.
And we worked our way up to number 2, because there was like a charting thing, like depending on how many.
So it's decentralized. Like, it's not like a Nintendo make a game and every bit of money that you spend on getting a Pokemon goes to Nintendo. Like,
no, it's completely. So it's, I mean, obviously they have to buy the game, so that's where Gary's Mod are making their money, right? So you're buying the game for $20, and then we're creating the server. Anything bought in that server is ours.
And you don't need to give them any money.
Nothing. No. So
Is that unusual?
No, not really. There's every game has that, whether
Really?
it be Counter-Strike, Rust, GTA, all of these servers. You have in-game purchases that are specific to that server or that world, that realm. So yeah, I ran that for a few years. So yeah, I'd be in class, sort of dealing with ban appeals and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Doing all of that.
Someone's done the wrong thing.
Yeah, we'd have pages and pages of rules and systems and procedures and all that sort of stuff.
Give us an example of a dodgy thing that someone could do to get in trouble.
Right. So I mean, what end of the stick? So it's like say for example, I'd had at times administrators or whoever that would abuse their permissions and their powers, right?
Jeez,
so it'd be
powers gone to their head.
Exactly right. So it'd be a friend that had joined the server and was playing, and the admin gave that person
extra gold coin.
You know what I mean? Like that sort of stuff. So it'd be and then or someone would get banned for doing something that they didn't feel was worthy of a ban, so I'd have to get them in and be like, okay, so what was the situation, all that sort of stuff.
This is great lead-in for managing artists and performers.
For sure, yeah.
And setting ground rules.
But as well, like when I was doing all of that, I feel like I'd had the desire, I want to do something along the lines of this when I'm older, when I finish school and all that sort of thing, but I had no sort of concept of what I wanted to do, you know what I mean? Like for the longest time I wanted to be a federal police officer, which is pretty ironic, yeah.
Oh, look, when you went to school, it's basically, do you want to be a police officer or a fireman or a lawyer or, you got about 6 jobs. I mean, there's so many jobs that you never get told about.
Still would love to be a lawyer. I just hate the schooling process, like the education process. That's going to be a problem then. Yeah, exactly right. I love arguing with people. That's the.
Yes, well, you could go on Sky News. You don't need to be a lawyer.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly right.
So what about staying in so you didn't want to stay in the video, you've become a video game empire at school. So you didn't want to continue with video games, or what was?
Not really. It was very shallow. Like obviously it's somewhat social. Having people you're talking to over a microphone, but it didn't feel as there wasn't enough drive for me there. You know what I mean? Like the thought process of having a gig at Madison Square Garden is a lot more appealing to me than having 15 servers that are all full and people are. You know what I mean? It's a different ball. Exactly right. Yeah, for sure. So that's where I started. And then I sold that business to someone who I thought would be a good
continue the legacy.
Yeah, would carry the torch.
Well, the reputation of the servers on the line.
Exactly right, but I'd by that point I'd sort of just decided like I'm not. It was while I was going to year 11 and 12, so and I was so.
So you did pass year 10.
I passed year 10.
Yeah, very good.
Passed year 11. Passed year 12. Got my VCE.
Very nice.
Didn't do my ATAR because I didn't see myself going to university at all.
So you'd already decided to be entrepreneurial by that point?
Oh, without a doubt. There was no way I was going to university. Both of my parents work at universities, and I'd known that I'd...
How did they feel about that?
They were fine with it. They'd rather me... the process of getting me through school and encouraging me to do homework and all of these things was so difficult that they were even if I was to have done a 9 to 5 that came up for the rest of my life, they would have preferred that than hassling me to do my homework for
particularly
uni.
School, because you must be at school.
Yes.
Otherwise they're calling the parents. But university you must attend. It's all it's voluntary.
I had a record low attendance for year 11 and year 12. It was legitimately around 45%.
If you passed with those numbers, you're smarter than your hair suggests.
Smart. Friendly, like the teachers for whatever reason liked me. So that sort of was the saving grace, I guess.
Yeah, I could see them either really liking you from a charisma point of view, or just not enjoying some of your behaviour.
And there were definitely teachers. There were definitely teachers like that, and I think I made sure that the ones that had the final say were the ones that enjoyed my.
No, that's smart.
Very
entrepreneurial of you.
Yeah. So that was that. So the Gmod stuff, and I sold that, and then I sort of obviously was doing year 11 and 12, and the subjects I picked for that were I for me, it wasn't. I want to do the subjects that are going to be as easy as possible. It was because easy subjects for me would have been more difficult than subjects that I actually enjoyed. And unfortunately, the subjects that I enjoyed were subjects that required so much more reading and so much more. So it was psychology, history, all of those sorts of, the fun ones. And so doing those, the Gmod stuff was less appealing, and I sort of had made it to, the top 3, which was sort of my, that was on the vision board to get the servers up top 3. And
so did you write a contract to sell a business? Like, did you have a name, and did you what did you just?
It was
just hand over the keys and exchange some money.
It wasn't formal whatsoever.
It's still
if
a
anything,
great process to go through.
If anything, so the person who bought it, Alex, he had bought it with a CS:GO item, like a knife. So it was like worth a couple grand. But it wasn't like a financial transaction. In the traditional sense, it was a Karambit Fade in Counter-Strike, which was the game that stole my heart after that, and I was obsessed with that game. Started a team and competed in a couple competitions. But yeah, so then I started working at Kmart to make some income.
It was the obvious next step.
Oh no, it definitely. But I wanted that retail experience. I wanted the pain and suffering of dealing with customers and their
Working under management and learning to take instructions and understanding the chain of command is always at least good to have in some way.
Absolutely, yeah. You've got to. Yeah, it's nice to know how to bend the rules when it comes to that sort of thing.
I think it builds empathy. If you've got your own business and you've got employees and you've gone through the Kmart experience, or for me it was Macca's, and you know what, as a humble employee, as a junior McDonald's person, how the general manager treats you, and how you want to be treated, and if there's a gap there, if you have the opportunity to run your own business, you try and do better than what you might find.
For sure.
Or if they're good, you try and
exactly right, because there was a few at
Kmart
that I really really enjoyed working for and with, and even at Kmart because I started at Decant, which is basically back of the warehouse unboxing things and putting them onto
manual labour,
roll cages, manual labour. Well, that was just the icing on the cake, because then I did warehousing, which was another whole thing. But with Kmart, I intentionally worked my way through. Got put on the floor eventually. Then I got like self-serve, and then I went to customer service. So I was like, I didn't want to just do one.
Just learn the different bits.
Like my brain would just explode if I was doing something so monotonous and repetitive. So I like working at customer service was fun, because I got to argue with customers and
engaging with
decline refunds, that sort of thing.
This is the power that goes to people's heads.
Yeah. Well, that was for me. It was like and then once I made customer service, I'm like, there's nothing else in here for me.
I don't care that you got lead poisoning from our paint.
Yeah.
No refunds.
Yeah, you can take it up with but that was good, and post that I started warehousing around the same time I started managing a band called Franco Cozzo.
Right.
So we're saying this is like 2017 now, so a couple of years on. Started managing Franco.
Okay. Was that an accident, or was that so you're at Kmart, you're working away, and then you start managing a band? Were you just friends, or did you go to a gig and see them, or had you decided as you were shuffling boxes that the music was going to be your way to progress?
Well, so John, who is my godfather, went to a bunch of shows of his. Already knew I loved the music. Well, I love live music.
Okay.
I love music in general, which I think the majority of people do.
Yep.
I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I saw sort of it as an opportunity with Alex, sort of explaining what Franco Cozzo was, as sort of like a gateway into dipping my toes and giving it a crack.
Okay. So John, so John is your godfather.
Yes.
And he's in the music business, and he took you to a few shows, did he? Or did he give you some tickets? So my first show he took me to with my brother, my mum and my dad. It was in 2007. Okay.
And it was at the Townsville Entertainment Centre, or whatever it's called, and we saw Silverchair and Powderfinger. and that was a hell of a
fantastic,
show. So coming in through the back door, you know what I mean? Walking through the green room, saying hello to Daniel Johns and the Silver Chair guys in Townsville.
So you flew? You?
No, I lived in Townsville. So that's where I was born. So I spent 8 years in Townsville.
Really?
Yeah. So
actually, I did not know. Actually, if I knew that, I'd forgotten it. That's amazing.
Well, I'm sort of jumping around here, but Townsville. Yeah, so. Went to that show and was sort of like gobsmacked. Got the guitar pick that Daniel Johns played with, and some of Ben's drumsticks.
That's worth a few knives in Minecraft, isn't it?
Yeah. So that was quite the experience, and so then we'd moved to Sheffield for 4 years in England, and there was like Kaiser Chiefs, and there was a bunch of bands that came through there that John sort of swung us tickets for, and
So he's pretty established in what he's doing.
Very established, manages Birds of Tokyo.
They're fantastic.
Midnight Oil, Cold Chisel, does some stuff for Jimmy, the presets.
That's incredible.
He's very successful.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Obviously Silverchair. Yeah, so...
well, that's a great exposure to the music world.
For sure. Yeah. And if anything, I don't know, it sort of set... it's like, if that person can achieve it, well, why can't I? You know what I mean?
Give it a crack. Yes.
So we're now in working at Kmart. Franco, Alex sort of got me interested in it all.
Yep.
I'm sort of like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Alex was a friend from Kmart or a friend from school? Or
friend from school, year below me. And Franco was sort of all in the year, that year level. Went to a gig at the Northcote Social Club for their EP release or whatever it was.
They were already playing Northcote Social Club.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it was what was it, a Friday night or something like that.
Yeah, right.
And
that's a great venue, and if they're on a Friday night there, it's a pretty good effort.
A bit of a I don't know if it was the best of decisions for the booking agent, considering they were all 17 at the time, and half the people that rocked up to that gig got turned away, and it was all like, bouncer just and they were it obviously didn't want.
No, that's hard.
So half the people listened to the gig on the street, and we had a couple.
That's iconic though.
That sort of situation.
How about that? Yeah.
Yeah, and
so the booking agent. I mean, at least I don't know. It's impressive that they were there. So
yeah, no, that was a good sort of signal for me, and I mean, literally at this point, I'd been to probably one venue in Melbourne in my entire life. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't like a consistent gig goer. Yeah. I'd sort of do my thing and had my small bubble, and that was it.
Yeah.
This was a huge sort of like eye-opening sort of this everything can the horizon.
You know what I mean?
It's
a great experience to have. Yeah.
Exactly right. So and started working with them, had a couple meetings with them. That sort of unraveled into more management, learning how to do stuff, and then picked up Red Fairy, and that they sort of came as a pair.
So Franco were managing themselves.
Yeah. So Sam was doing majority of it.
Yeah. Okay.
And then
And Red Fairy, where did you come across them?
So they were friends with Franco. So it's as with everything. It's like Franco were like, you've got to book these guys for our supporting stuff for one of our shows. They're from Williamstown or wherever it was, and I'm like, okay, cool. Listen to them. I'm like, yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
And then the day that I had my first meeting with them, they're also having a meeting with someone else that was trying to be their manager. So it was like one of those like.
That's cool.
That was
Now hopefully Franco put in a good word for you.
Yeah, exactly right. And I feel like that was probably the main reason why I got them over the other person, was because of the relationship.
Life is relationships and contacts. So
exactly
that's,
right.
If Red Fairy knew Franco and they trusted you, that's good.
So
I mean, Red Fairy is just so enjoyable to listen. The first time you hear them, you can enjoy them. It's like you've known the song for 3 years. It's amazing.
Sure.
They're quite an unusually good, catchy band. So that's a good way to start. So you wouldn't have even had a name for Exude at this point. You just kind of, or had you come up?
The name was there.
Right.
So it was a pretty random. With most things, it's like even with the Gmod server, with this as well, it was like everything sort of. As soon as I had the idea or I'd wanted to do it, it just the next week it was like we're balls to the wall. This is happening. The name sort of just came.
It's a great name. Like, so Exude is a great word. For whatever reason, it's just phonetically interesting, and it looks like it's a strong brand, and it's a well chosen name. So were you in the shower one day washing that long hair, or how did you come up with it?
Probably
just dropped from the sky. Did you see Exude written down? So how did you?
I have no clue.
Yeah, right.
I do not remember. Honestly, the weed has probably phased it out of my memory. However it came about, I think
that's a great brand. I
like the name. It started with just Exude Management. It wasn't Exude Group.
Yeah.
And
well, you weren't a group at that point.
Exactly. Well, we kind of were. We had Lockie and Darcy that they were sort of like helping out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It didn't like formalize until later on.
Yeah.
And I had the concept of Exude Group, and then
once you work out the number of things that can be done within the industry, you need a group.
Exactly right. Yeah.
No, it's good.
So then I think Anthony so I'd already sort of been working with Lockie and Darcy, and they were sort of just like
friends of yours.
Yeah, from high school, from year 9, and they were into
good to have people you trust
exactly.
in the early days, because
they
have to put up with a lot. So
that's it. Yeah, a lot of unpaid sort of work, I guess, for all of us.
Yeah. No one's being financially rewarded at the start of anything.
Yeah,
really.
exactly.
I mean,
exactly. So then we picked up Anthony. Anthony sort of picked up us. He just started. Anthony's a lurker, right? So Anthony, who works in the bar behind Pride.
No, all of Footscray. We'll have to introduce Anthony properly at another later date, but everyone in Footscray knows Anthony of who you speak of.
Yes. Yeah, indeed. And he was sort of lurking every single show.
Attending.
Attending
Franco shows.
Attending all the shows. And
supporting.
And he's a hard character to miss as well. So it's like
indeed.
He was front
very
and
involved.
Center. Absolutely right. So I assume from memory he was there probably just doing photography and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I have a vivid memory of being at the Bendigo Hotel, and I just worked on the new Franco website, and I sort of did it through some sort of templated website thing. And Anthony has a look at it. He's like, "Oh, this probably needs to be changed. This needs to be changed." And
that does sound like Anthony.
Yeah, I'm like, you can do it. You know what I mean? If you want to. Yeah. I mean, he's sort of stuck like a bad smell, and hasn't.
Well, all the better for it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So now, where are we at now? So we found Anthony. We've sort of picked up Red Fairy and Franco. I think this is about the time that we did our first show at Pride.
Yes. So that would have been around January 2019.
18.
So December 2000. So Pride opened January 2018.
Yeah.
And then might have been towards the end of 2018.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Because we opened January 2018.
Yeah, that
and then
makes sense.
We had different things on, and I would have met you maybe later in that year. And there was the Spieth sessions or something. Was that Franco's? Oh.
Yeah.
Hugo was coming back. The drummer was coming back from overseas.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That could have been it. Well, we were doing shows in the latter end of 2018.
Yeah. Franco played there. I think Franco played there because they knew someone else involved with the venue. I think Annie. I think they just played there, and you kind of came along and said, "Oh, I manage these."
Yeah.
And that, to my knowledge, they'd been booked by Annie. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Never heard of Pride at that point, and walked in, and it was such an unusual venue at the time.
I think still unusual, don't worry.
And Shane, was his name Shane?
Yeah.
He was there. You guys were having a chat.
Yeah.
I remember overhearing the chat, and I'm sort of like, okay, this is interesting. You know.
Oh,
what I mean?
absolutely. Not too many dull conversations.
No, not at all.
In and around Pride.
Yeah, so we did that. I think you appreciated Franco's music in their crowd.
Oh, fantastic! A fantastic band. Yeah.
So for whatever reason, either you asked us to do another one, or we sort of ended up agreeing to do another one, and then it unfolded into some sort of.
No, I think my memory is slightly different. That Franco were there. I think Annie had booked them.
Yeah.
You introduced them as their manager. You were their manager.
Yeah.
And suggested to me that you could help out with live music at Pride.
Yeah.
And I was a fan of live music.
Yeah.
And I wanted live music. And I said, thanks very much. I appreciate that, and it's always good to know lots of people.
Mm-hmm.
But that Annie had done a great job on a couple of live music. She's a fine musician herself.
Absolutely,
and she's got lots of muso friends, and she'd put together a couple of good gigs. And then there was a group of young people who organise a whole lot of things called, they operate under the Medium brand, and they'd put a couple of things together. So I considered Annie as our default music booking person, and then the Medium group as the next in line. So you're sort of coming and say, oh, I can help you. And I'm like, oh, thanks, mate, but we're I appreciate that, but we've got these systems in place. And the next time I wanted live music, I rang Annie and she couldn't help, and then Medium couldn't help. And I'm like, oh, Seamus.
Yeah.
And you did a wonderful job and put together a few good gigs, and it's like, oh, let's just keep doing this, because you just need people that you can rely on, because these things are so hard. It's so hard to build events and to build, just to build things. So you need someone that can be there, and also that they enjoy that responsibility, and they enjoy what they're doing, and they want to do it, and it's not a chore. And you know, Annie was a muso, kind of helping other musos, whereas you were going into organising.
Yeah, more from the business perspective and looking at it from, because I mean, obviously it wasn't a immediately sort of like financially rewarding situation. It was a very much
it wasn't for us either. It wouldn't have been for anyone.
Exactly. Yeah. So there needed to be a business mindset of long term.
That's right.
What are the rewards that this can sort of yearn. Yeah, that's interesting. That's funny. I mean, I think I was smoking so much weed at that point that that's all some sort of a blur.
Well, definitely. I didn't have time for anything untoward running Pride in the early days. So that is definitely what happened, basically.
Yeah. So that I would have been 19 at that moment in time.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah,
that's pretty funny. So I mean, that's. I think
old enough to get into the venue, importantly.
Yes, yes.
And to have a beer. And
of course, yes. Not needing a guardian or a parent with me.
That's right.
So I was working warehousing 40 hours a week whilst doing that, which was...
That's a lot. But I mean, you might be able to play out in your mind what you...
Oh, definitely. I mean, there was that was a positive. It's like, I mean, even now, I find it just with mental health side of things, it's a lot easier to sort of keep moving forward when you have 101 things to be thinking about, rather than some
dwelling on things,
dwelling on the past or on something or someone. You know what I mean? It's like,
if you've got time to regret the past or worry about the past, then you don't have enough going forward. Like,
exactly.
I really believe that you've got to, if you've got enough challenges in front of you, you don't have time to worry about it, let alone actually worry. Like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that you're going to be okay if you keep yourself busy and focused and to push yourself. And there's so much to do. I mean, with what you want to do, you could spend 168 hours in your week progressing forward, trying to do what you do. And if I'd love to be able to spend 168 hours on Pride instead of just 150, because I've got to sleep that 18 hours. But there's so much always to do.
For sure.
And because of what you do supporting artists, and we have joyful jobs. One of the things, we'll talk about some of the challenges as we go forward. But at the end of the day, we are trying to make people happy through an amazing space or an amazing experience or an amazing live music gig. I mean, these are great. It's very nice to wake up in the morning and that's what you need to do. If you're doing it well, you're going to make a lot of people happy around you. So it's motivating.
Absolutely.